At Genesis chapter 38. And so we're going to look at this story. Remember, we just got finished with Joseph and the brothers. Joseph having his dreams, and the brothers being jealous, and the father making Joseph that coat of many colors, and didn't say he gave anybody else one. It could be a coat of many colors, or a long sleeve coat, or I just say the long sleeve coat of many colors. And then the situation of them being so jealous that they want to kill him, and then they decide, well, why should we kill him? We can sell him. We can make some money off of this guy. All right, we can make a profit. And so they sell him to the Midianites, and the Midianites take him, and the Midianites and the Ishmaelites take him and bring him down to Egypt, and he's sold to Pharaoh's guard, Potiphar. And so that's where we left off at. Now, and then they brought his coat back to Jacob, and they put goat's blood on it, and asked the father, "Is this the coat?" Didn't say what happened. Just let him come to his own conclusion. Mm-hmm. All right, and they just and that's tantamount to lying. Then they didn't tell no lie, but they lied straight up, didn't they? Because they know exactly. They just let him think what he wanted to think, but knowing that he's going to think something that's incorrect. Sometimes that's even a more devastating lie, because it makes you look like, well, I didn't do nothing wrong. I just brought them the coat. No, you did do something wrong, because you sold the boy. You took his coat. You dipped it in goat's blood to make it look like it's his blood. See, back in that day, they didn't have DNA testing. See, today we would have been like, oh no, this is not. So you wouldn't have been able to get away with it then. But guess what? They still didn't get away with it. Because whether anyone see it or not, God sees. Amen. And that's an important thing. So now we're going into chapter 38. So we're going to go just a little bit away from Joseph here for a second, and we're going to look at Judah. Remember, Judah was the one that said, let's not kill him, let's sell him. All right? And so we're going to follow a little bit more with Judah and see what he's all about. All right? Remember, we looked at Reuben, and Reuben was the one that went into his father's concubine. And we talked a little bit about Simeon and Levi. Those were the ones that went and convinced the town of Shechem to get circumcised, and then when on the third day came in, killed them all. Right. So now we're going to look at Judah here a little bit, the fourth born, and let's take a listen here and see what they've got to tell us here. Genesis 38.
Chapter 38. And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezib when she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. And Judah said unto Onan, Go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, wherefore he slew him also. Then said Judah to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow at thy father's house, till Shelah my son be grown. For he said, Lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in process of time the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted, and went up unto his sheep shearers to Timnah, he and his friend Hira the Adulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying,
Behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnah to shear his sheep.
And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way, and said, Go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said,
What wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me?
And And he said,
I will send thee a kid from the flock.
And she said,
Wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it?
And he said,
What pledge shall I give thee?
And she said,
Thy signet, and thy bracelets, and thy staff that is in thine hand.
And he gave it to her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adulamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand. But he found her not. Then he asked the men of that place, saying,
Where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside?
And they said,
There was no harlot in this place.
And he returned to Judah, and said,
I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place.
And Judah said,
Let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her.
And it came to pass about 3 months after, that it was told Judah, saying,
Tamar thy daughter-in-law hath played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom.
And Judah said,
Bring her forth, and let her be burnt.
When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying,
By the man whose these are am I with child.
And she said,
Discern, I pray thee, whose are these, the signet, and bracelets, and staff?
And Judah acknowledged them, and said,
She hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son.
And he knew her again no more. And it came to pass in the time of her travail, that, behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying,
This came out first.
And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that, behold, his brother came out. And she said,
How hast thou broken
Listen.
forth? This breach be upon thee.
Therefore his name was called Pharez. And afterward came out his brother, that had the scarlet thread upon his hand. And his name was called Zerah. Chapter
All right.
30.
That's some mess right there.
That is some
That's some
mess.
mess.
It's in the Bible, ain't it? So that's what I say.
They keep doing stuff.
It's-
Nothing from here to there.
yeah. Well, that's the thing.
That's why we see all this stuff out here. That's why the Bible said there's nothing new under the sun.
So,
Because people, the mess they doing, think they doing now, it ain't nothing new. They've been doing that stuff for years.
yeah. And so when you read this, good morning,
Come on.
you begin to realize that folks are folks. I mean, you get messed up and you say, wow, boy, what happened to you? Well, same thing that happened to people, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. They got caught up in their own mess. And that's one of the things that we'll see continuously until the Lord comes.
Amen.
You're going to find that one of the things that God does is He works in the culture that you're in. And when you read this about Judah, you're looking at this and you go, man, well, Judah is a problem here. But wait a minute. Isn't this from the line that Jesus is coming from?
Yeah.
And so you see this, and we're going to point out a few things here that I think, and we're going to continuously see this about the line of Jesus. We're going to see some more situations like this. We're going to see Bathsheba. We're going to see Rahab the harlot. We're going to see Ruth, the Moabitess. We're going to see all these individuals that come from other cultures that are actually part of the lineage of our Savior. All right. Remember when we looked at Lot and what happened with him and his daughters, and then one of the children was born Moab because of the incest between the father and the daughter. And then you say, well, Moab. Well, then when you go further along in the Bible, you come to find out that one of the descendants of that was Ruth, and who was going to be the grandmother of King David. So you look at all of this mess that's in there, which is interesting that Jesus came from a line that's full of sin, but that's what He came to eradicate. He didn't come from a line that was pure, didn't do no wrong, didn't have no issues. He came from a line that had sin on the human side. But what makes it possible for Him to be able to redeem it was that He also came directly from the Father. He's also God Himself. So that's the beauty of it. And
So that's why God had to bypass man, because Jesus would have been born in sin.
yeah, well, he ain't gonna
He couldn't
be born in sin.
So that's why God had to bypass the man.
Yeah.
And God,
Just use the woman.
woman.
But you see in the line of them all these interesting women. And we're going to see this one about Tamar. So it says it came to pass at the time. Now keep in 38. It says it came to pass, and this is after they had already sold Joseph into the Ishmaelites and the Midianites, and then they took him down to Egypt. Now Judah, it came to pass that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite. So wait a minute. Judah saw a what kind of woman?
Canaanite.
A Canaanite woman. Okay. Remember, that's the same situation that got Isaac upset, because Esau was marrying what? The Canaanite woman. And remember back in where Abraham sent his servant out and told the servant, do not let my son Isaac marry a woman from here, one of these Canaanite women. Go back into. So Judah is connected with a Canaanite woman. All right, and that's something that we should keep in mind when we think about the Canaanites. We also, we think about all these different groups that came from that area. All right, and some people like to associate a lot of the African descendants from the Canaanites, which
Right,
is,
yeah.
which we could get into that at another time. But it's interesting to see this here. So we got this Canaanite woman that Judah saw while he was down in with the Adulamites. All right. And the name of the woman was Shua. All right. And so it says, and he took her. Now, I find it interesting. It says that he didn't take her the wife. It says he took her. Remember what happened with Dinah in Shechem? You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of similar language. Now, maybe he took her to marry, but it don't say specifically.
Right.
And he went unto her. Right. So he took her and he went unto her. All right. And she conceived and bare a son. And he called his name All right. So obviously she's with her now, and so he's making her the wife of convenience. It doesn't say that they married, but maybe they did. So I don't know.
Well, some theologians say they married, because here it says, and the name was Shechem, and he married her and went to bear her.
Well, down in the 6th verse is actually going to call the wife, but it didn't say it in the beginning when he first went unto her.
Right.
And so, but we're going to see that he was with her, and obviously she became his wife. But whether that happened beforehand or afterhand, it don't really say.
Right.
But we're going to see that they definitely were married in the 6th verse. But we're going to get there in just a minute. So she conceived and bare a son and called his name I find that interesting that it sounds like error, but that's
Yeah, right.
but we're going to see that in a minute. And so, and she conceived again and bare a son and called his name Onan. All right. And she conceived yet again, conceived and bare a son and called his name Shelah. And he went at Chezeb. She bare him. So that's where they were when they bare him. Now look at verse 6. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn. Now, the firstborn son, he went and found him a wife. And her name was Tamar.
That's how these people get these names. Okay, so this wife is the wife for
Yeah, not Judah. Right? Yes, yes, you're right. So it don't really say.
Right, so Judah ain't got
It
It don't-
show us that he got
But how
married.
come?
it-
Well, see,
it-
this is
Well, don't even ask her. It's just like the world.
No, I'm getting a little
Confused?
cause I have the New King James.
Hmm.
Well, your book is different.
So, and that's what I'm saying in the second chapter, and Judah saw 3 daughters. Names was Shechem, and he married her and went
Right.
into her.
Yeah. See, the New King says he married her, but in the it says he took her.
He took her.
So, I mean, it's a matter of who wants to translate it which way.
Oh,
The whole way.
Okay.
Took her.
He
The
took
whole way. He took
he
her.
took it.
And so,
Okay.
That's the Hebrew.
That's the old way.
So there's a little discrepancy here.
yeah. I mean, that's why I say we don't really know. Maybe they did, but there's verbiage in here that may sound like, well, they just kind of hooked up. They were just kind of, well, we just living together. But it didn't. But the Canaanites didn't come out and kill him.
Not yet, probably.
Yeah. So now, but then he bears 3 other children. So he's got he's got Onan and Shelah. All right. And so he went and got a wife for his son All right. His firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was what? Wicked. Well, what did he do? They don't tell us. It just says he was what? He was wicked. He was wicked in the sight of the Lord. And that's important to keep in mind, because he might have been wonderful in the sight of people. But in the sight of the Lord, he was what? He was wicked. And the Lord slew him. So the Lord just like, come on in. You know how when your kids acting all bad outside, you get in the house. And the Lord does that. He'll just call you in. You come out of the natural, come on back into the spiritual, come back into the eternal. That's what death is. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So you just come on back in. So he called him in because he was wicked. All right, so he died. So the Lord slew him. Verse 8. And Judah said unto Onan, go unto thy brother's wife and marry her and raise up seed unto thy brother. Okay, now we have to stop here for a minute and say, excuse me? What's happening here? Well, once again, keeping in mind, I've said this before, we'll probably see this quite often as we go through the Old Testament. When God comes in and deals and is interacting with the people, he's interacting with them in their cultural environment, in their dispensational lifestyle, in their aquarium of the atmosphere. And this was one of the things, and we're going to see this when we get to Exodus and Leviticus, that this is actually a Levirate law.
So right now they're not under the law.
No.
They're under
Their cultural
settings.
So what they want to do.
So that's why we have how many books of the law?
Well,
Is it
I mean,
12? How many books of the law?
well, we have the books of Moses,
Moses is
but the law is written predominantly in Exodus, Leviticus,
Yeah.
and Numbers, and then Deuteronomy is a retelling of it.
'Cause
So-
I remember him telling us when we was in school. So many books of I gotta go home and look at them.
So what we see here is a cultural norm that will eventually be written in the Mosaic law. But keep in mind, Moses is not even here yet, so we don't have no Mosaic law. But the philosophy is that if a man, you're trying to, well, the goal is we want to keep the heritage line going. All right, so we want to make sure so that whatever belonged to this particular individual, when he marries and have children, all his stuff is passed along, and that stuff continues to be moved down and being utilized. Well, if you don't have any children, well, where does the stuff go? Who gets the property? Who gets the herds and the flocks and the land and the wells that you dug? Who gets all that then? So to avoid that problem and then keeping other people from coming in and fighting for something that now seems to be vacated, they had this cultural norm where, okay, well, another close relative, in this case the natural brother, would go in and marry the wife, and he would be with the wife one time, or well, until she conceived, put it that way. And then when she had a child, that child would be considered the dead brother's son. All right, and then that would be the way that the line would continue.
It has to be a son.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, generally they wanted you to have a son, but
So that means he could have to go into it several times
Until.
to get the son.
but we're going to see that happen. That's going to happen and we're going to during the time of Moses, where you're going to see these women, these daughters, and say, well, our father had no sons.
Right.
Why should we lose all of his possessions? And Moses is going to produce a law based on that. So your question is valid, because we will see that. That's going to actually happen. We're going to see that as we go forward.
Yeah, 'cause he has-
But that's an important thing to keep in mind too, because it relates to the aspect of Jesus being born to a woman, that you actually, because of that law, he actually gets all the credentials of the woman, which is humanity, which is why he can be 100% what? Human. But at the same time be totally who? God. And so we'll talk on that as we get to it. All right. So now this law is happening. So Onan, he understands it. He knows what the father's talking about. The father knows what's going on, and he says, "You're not going out to your brother's wife and marry her and raise up seed to thy brother." And Onan knew that the seed would not be his. So that means that when I bear this child will not get I won't get any credit for him being part of my lineage. It's all going to be about my brother. So all the goods that he's going to get will not be credited to me. It's going to be credited to my brother. So what is Onan being? He's being selfish. Because he knew that I'm not going to get anything out of this. And so it came to pass when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilt it on the ground, lest he should give seed to his brother. So he didn't want to do it after his father told him to do it, because he didn't feel, what advantage is it to me? So once again, selfishness in the midst of craziness. So yet still, like I say, God's working within that aquarium, that cultural aspect. That's the cultural lines that y'all set. Well, you're still cheating. All right? It's like you can create a game. You make a game, hopscotch. All right? Hopscotch ain't in the Bible, but it's a game. But you know the rules. And if you're doing hopscotch, if you step on the line, you're supposed to be what? You're supposed to be out. Okay? But hopscotch is not in the Bible. But if you step on the lines and you say, no, I didn't step on the lines, you're doing what? You're lying, and you're trying to what? Cheat. So a game like hopscotch had nothing to do with the Bible. When you play it, if you play it wrong and you start lying, now what you are doing, is that in the Bible? Yes, because the Bible says that we should not what? Lie, nor should we try to defraud or cheat. So you can be in something that has nothing to do with Scripture, and then turn it into a moral aspect in which the Bible talks a whole lot about. You follow me? So this is a situation where this individual, in this cultural norm that they had about bringing up seed to their brother, well, this is the rules of the game. This is the way you're supposed to do it. And he went in and cheated. I'm not going to raise up no seed. Well, the Lord's like, well, listen, you know what? I ain't going to tell you whether it's right or wrong that you marrying your brother, but according to the rules of the game, you're supposed to do this. And you went into her, lay with her, and then when it come time to conceive, you letting everything fall on the ground. You cheating in this particular thing. All right? So, what does the Lord do? Let's take a look. So it says that he, in verse 9, it says, Onan knew that the seed would not be his, so it came to pass when he went in, he spilt the seed on the ground. And it says, verse 10, it says, and this thing which he did displeased the Lord, wherefore he slew him also.
So,
Take them right out.
it lets us know that in everything we do, we still have to obey the God.
Right.
We have to always, consider that's supposed to be part of our life. The lineage of God, the way He's put in us, instruct us, is supposed to be the final say.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that we do. Like any of y'all ever played the game Monopoly? All right, Monopoly ain't got nothing to do with the Bible, right? All right. But now, when you're playing the game, now there's a way you can play the game and be part of the game and be fine, and they ain't going to displease the Lord at all. When people land on your property, you're like, give me my money. Give me my money. You land on my money. I got a house and a hotel there. I want my money. If you ain't got the money, you mortgage all your stuff. That's part of the game, right? Now, and you could be like that and be all part of the game and have fun and all that, and have your little attitude in the game, and ain't displeasing the Lord. But now, if you reaching into the bank and pulling money out the bank, that's cheap. Now, that would be displeasing to the Lord, because within the rules of the game, you cheat. Now, you could be the toughest landlord. Well, can you just allow me to pay half the rent? No, I want all my money. Right? But that's part of the game. Right? And so that's all, and everything's going to be all good. And when it's all said and done, you're just having fun. But if you cheating and stuffing dollars in your, out of the bank and everything, now the Lord gonna come down. He's gonna be like, I'm gonna take you out over a game of Monopoly. Yes, because it's not just Monopoly. You taking your mindset of lying and cheating into everything.
Right.
Now you can be a tough player, but don't cheat.
Right.
So you
Don't displease God.
you don't have to really always be in something massive, but whatever you in, make sure that you in it properly. So that's why I try to bring up something this mundane like hopscotch or Monopoly. And this was a cultural thing, and he's in there he's doing it wrong. He's cheating because he knows it ain't gonna be to my advantage. So so the Lord took him away. So they said the Lord slew him also. Look at verse 11. And when Judah, as I said, then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow. So he says, okay, right now I got another son, but he's really too young. So remain what? A widow. And thy father's house. In other words, go back to where? Your father's house. All right. Till Sheila, my son, be grown. So all right, Sheila was too young to be given over to her. All right, because that was going to be the next rule of the game. That okay, you got another son. He's got to go in and be with her. And you can imagine. Well, my goodness, the woman done killed. I don't know what happened, but 2 of my sons done went in with her, and now 2 of them is dead. Well, because both of them were what? Were wicked. Why were they wicked? We don't know. But I will say this: remember, Judah went and married a what? What kind of woman? A Canaanite woman. Is that what caused it? I don't know. But I do know this, that Abraham was very specific, and he didn't want Isaac marrying a what? Canaanite woman. Because their ways were what? Different. All right. And so he said, until my son Sheila be grown up. For he said, peradventure, he die also. Now see, that's a little line in that little statement that make me think Judah, right there, he ain't got no intent. He said, peradventure, he may die also. So he's thinking, I can't let my last son die. So you go be a widow and don't stay here amongst us. Go back to your father's house and be the widow. And he said, peradventure, he die also. Because he's thinking about his last son. All right. As his brothers did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. So she did exactly what he told her to do. Verse 12. In the process of time, that means several years later, the daughter of Shua, Judah's dead wife, and Judah had confront with and went up unto the sheep shearers and Timnah. So basically, it's just saying that Judah is about to take his sheep up to get sheared, and it's going up to Timnah to get and this is basically just how you would get profit. You would have the sheep and you would sell the wool. You had a question?
Okay. Now I got confused a little bit. That's his wife.
His wife.
Oh, Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what it's letting us know is that Judah now doesn't have his what? His wife.
His wife.
His wife is dead.
Dead.
And this was what kind of, she was the what? The Canaanite woman that she met. So Judah's wife is dead. 2 of the 3 children that his wife bare to him is what? Also dead.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's just who? Judah and Sheila.
Sheila.
The youngest son.
Son, yeah, youngest.
All right. And then, so you have Tamar, the widow.
Well.
His daughter-in-law. All right. And so it says, he and his friend Hira, the Adulamite. That's where they went up to go shear sheep. 13. And it was told Tamar, saying, behold, thy father-in-law go up to Timnah to shear sheep. So now Tamar has been waiting at her father's house, and you would assume this is a few years. And she's, how old does Sheila need to be before he's coming? I can't marry somebody else. I don't have any children.
They have to be 13, right?
I don't know specifically,
Married, really,
15.
but it would have to. But 13 generally, because that's when they get bar mitzvah. But I mean, it would have to be to the point where he would be able to produce children.
Children, right?
So he'd have to go through his puberty state. So at the very least, he would need to be able to bear a child. Within this age, within this culture, I'm not sure. It doesn't tell us specifically how old, but it would be somewhere around there, I'm sure. And so it says, behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnah to shear sheep. So Tamar knows what's going on. And she recognizes that I'm probably not going to get that other son, even though he told me I was. So that means he would have lied to her. Verse 14. And she put her widow's garment off from her. So she was dressing every day, letting everybody know, I'm a widow. And that's what they did back in those days. The woman would wear something to let her know, I was either married, or I'm a virgin, or in this case, I'm a widow. Okay? And covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and set in an open place. So now she's covering herself with something that makes her look like she is a what? A harlot. A woman that's available to anyone. Which is, by the way, in Timnah. And she saw that Sheila was grown. Right? He's old enough now. He should have been sent to me. And she was not she was not given unto him to wife. And nobody took her and said, okay, here's your wife. Raise up seed to your brothers that have passed. All right. So she saw that the rules of that culture were not being followed. Like we said, you got the Monopoly game, you got the game of hop. Those were the rules, and those rules are not being followed. Verse 15. And Judah saw her, and he thought her to be an harlot. So that's the way she dressed, and that's what he thought. We could always make a quick comment about that. Sometimes when you see women dressed in a certain way, and you say, well, should we be regulating and making legalism about how women dress? And my answer is no. You let folks dress the way they want to dress. But understand this: if you dress a certain way, people will come with certain thoughts. Maybe not everybody, but certain people. If you put on if you wear a police officer's uniform every day,
People gonna think you're a police
people gonna think you're a police officer because that's what you're wearing. So you just always got to take that in mind. All right, so I just throw that out. That's just a free stick up there. But Tamar dressed like a harlot, and when Judah saw her, he thought she was a what? A harlot. By the way, she was dressed. Because she and she covered her face, so he had no idea what the face looked like. right? But not to be crude or anything, but he wasn't interested in the face.
Right.
All right. So verse 16, and he turned unto her by the way and said, go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. All right. Didn't know that this was your son's wife, and the one that Onan went to and was not with her properly, all right, and the one you did not want to give to Sheila. You had no idea that this was that woman. And she said, what will you give me that thou mayest come in unto me? So she's looking for what? A price.
Right.
But is she really looking for money? Not really.
Not really.
She is saying, you didn't play by the rules. I'm going to bend the rules too now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Look at verse 17. And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. So I'm going to give you a goat. You let me stay with you tonight, and y'all give you a goat. All right. But the key is from the flock, which means where's the goat right now? The goat is where?
With the flock.
With the flock. That means the goat's not what? With him.
With him.
The goat's with the flock. So she's like, okay, that's fine. And she said, what will you give me a pledge until you send it? So give me like something here that is a credit to let me know that you will send what you promised me. Right? Give me some kind of way of having an honor, a sense of honor that you're going to actually give me what you tell me. And he said, what pledge shall I give thee? And this is where she comes in, and she's thought this thing right through.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's amazing sometimes you read the Bible, and it's time and time and time again you see the ingenuity, the cleverness of women, and just the dumbness of some guys. You just it seems to be a pattern. But I'll just leave that there. Because she's thinking, it's like when I'll bring another game in, chess. Right. You play chess. You can't be thinking of what move I can make. You got to be thinking you got to be thinking several moves ahead. What's going to be happening next year? What's going to be happening next month? You got to have all that in mind, about life. And that's what happened here. So if you're not thinking several moves ahead, and she's thinking several moves ahead. Right. So and you can identify that by the pledge she asked for. She's looking for identification as to who you are. She don't really care about the goat. She ain't trying to make no money. She's just trying to say, yeah, I know what's going to happen. When I turn up pregnant, you're gonna want me put to death. But then I'm going to have evidence. Well, if you're going to kill me, you're going to have to kill the person that these belong to. So she's already thinking ahead. All right. So she says, and she said, thy signet, which is a personal. That's how you would sign something. It's like your personal signature. It's like a hard ring that you would put into clay to identify you. Thy bracelet, something that people have seen you with, and I can identify you with. It's like, Michael Jackson with the glove, right? Right. Okay, well, when you see that glove, you think, okay, that must be Michael Jackson. So give me your bracelet and your staff. Another thing that people constantly see you with. That is in thine hand. And he gave it to her and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. Right? She got exactly what she was trying to get. I wanted to have the child so that the original father, would have a descendant. And it also would carry along in the line, because Onan, and Sheila were descendants of who? Judah. Well, it would have been Judah's grandson anyway. Well, now this is not going to be his grandson. This is going to be his what? His son. All right. Verse 19. And she arose and went away and laid off her veil from her. So she took that covering that she had off that made her look like a harlot, took that off. Why? Because that's not what she really was. All right. And put on the garments of her widowhood. She put back on the garments of her widowhood. All right. Now, if you're a widow, if you're wearing the garments of a widow, and if you're wearing the garments of a virgin, should you ever be pregnant? No.
No.
All right? Because if you're a widow, that means you have no man, no husband. If you're a virgin, you are what? Not married.
Not married.
So when those things, so you should not be wearing those and then turning up pregnant. All right. So she put on the garments of her widowhood, and Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adulamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hands, but he found her not, because she don't want the goat. The goat I can't identify you by the goat, but I can identify you by your signet ring. I can identify you by that bracelet and that staff. She don't care nothing about the goat. But once again, he's looking at this, his way. But he's doing his honor part. He said, "Well, I'm a send it." But look at 21. Then he asked the men. This is his friend, the Adulamite. He asked the men of that place, saying, "Where is the harlot which was openly by the wayside?" And they said, "There is." And they said, "There was no harlot in this place." We don't have no harlot over here. They're not used to it, and they never did, because she was like what? She just showed up there and just did that because she knew Judah was coming up there to shear the sheep. So it says, and he returned to Judah and said, "I cannot find her." And he also the men of that place said, "There was no harlot in this place." So what should Judah's response be? Well, should I get a little nervous? No, he ain't thinking about that at all. And Judah said, "Let her take it then. Let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her." So as far as he's concerned, that was just a freebie. I didn't have to pay her. But he don't realize, dude, you gave her your identification.
You paid.
You paid.
We'll continue to pay.
You gonna pay now.
Big time.
Yeah. So, so that whole aspect of, having to pay for your having your little thing, your little fling, ain't new, is it?
That's nothing new.
All right.
Cost you in the long run.
It's going to cost you. And it's going to cost them. So Judah said, "Let her take it. It's just a signet. It's just a bracelet. It's just a staff." Yeah, but it's identification, dude. And that's what he doesn't see. Verse 24. And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Judah, saying, "Tamar, thy daughter-in-law, have played the harlot." Did she play the harlot? She sure did. "And also, behold, she is with child by whoredom." Okay, so is that true? Yes, it is. All right. And Judah said, "Bring her forth and let her be what? Burnt." He's gonna get rid of Tamar. Now I ain't got to worry about Sheila going to listen. She done messed up now. Okay, see, she shouldn't have done this. All right, that's probably why. There was probably something wrong with her. That's why all my boys are dead. So now she gonna die. Bring her out. So I'm just throwing that out as imagination as to what might have been going on in his head. Yeah, we gonna get rid of her finally, and then I can really find somebody nice for Sheila. Nope, that's not how it's gonna go. It ain't gonna go no way like you think it's gonna go. She done already thought this thing through. Verse 25. And she was brought forth, and she sent to the father-in-law, saying, "By the man whom these are, am I with child?" And she said, "Discern, I pray thee, whose are these? The signet, the bracelet, and the staff." Look at that. She done produced the evidence. Okay? You want to have me burnt? I just want to let you know. You can burn me all you want. But I'm pregnant by this man, and here's his identification. Now y'all discern who it is. Well, it's the man that said, let her be burnt. Now, here's the thing about which is interesting, and I think is right about Judah, which is why our Savior came through his line. See, Judah is not what? Perfect. Judah is not Jesus.
Right.
All right? But look at what Judah does. Very much like how David did. All right. And Judah, what? Acknowledged. Look at that. Them. And said, she have been more what? Righteous than I. Therein is the key. See, it ain't the fact that you can be perfect, because guess who can be perfect? Who's perfect?
Nobody.
No one.
It's can you acknowledge that you're not perfect? Remember what Jesus said. He that is well have no need of a what?
A physician.
So if you think you well, I'm not a sinner. Well, then if you feel you're not a sinner, guess what? You don't need a redeemer.
No, you don't.
And so if you don't need a redeemer, that means you're not going to get redeemed. But when it's all said and done, it's still going to make you what? A sinner. You need to put on the covering. But you need to, the first step is acknowledgement. If you don't acknowledge that you need
A Savior.
the righteousness of Jesus. All right. We've seen people do some so-called spacewalks. You know, they go out in the space shuttle and they go out and walk on space and everything. And you can be out there and you be in the space shuttle, and when you decide that you're gonna open that the hatch and you're gonna walk outside in space, there's something you need to make sure you have on, and that's what?
That spacesuit.
That spacesuit. Because there's no oxygen, there's no heat,
There's nothing.
you ain't got no pressure out there. Your eyeballs gonna pop out your head because it ain't got no pressure. All that stuff is gonna be a problem because you're going into an environment with the wrong covering or with no covering. It's the same thing when we go to God. God is perfect, and he's always going to be perfect, and he's going to remain perfect, and nothing coming next to him is going to taint his perfection, because it will be consumed before it can do anything to make him unrighteous. So if you're going to come to God, you need to be what? 100% righteous. So that you can interact with him. So that means you need to put on your righteousness suit. Just like that astronaut got to, if you're going out in space, and if you got any little hole or any little crack in your space suit, you still going to die. I got the whole suit on, but I got a little crack right here. Well, you still going to die. Because as soon as you step out there, that space is going to see that crack and it's going to become a problem. So your righteousness has to be perfect. You got to have perfect righteousness. But you can't have perfect righteousness if you go to God with your own efforts. I'm a good person. I'm a nice guy. I'm a decent gal. I'm a fair person. I don't cheat nobody. And all that's good. That's what we should be. We should be that way. But you can't go to God with that, bragging about that. The only thing you can do when you go to the Lord is say, I thank God for the covering, the righteousness of Jesus. But the first step is the what? Acknowledgement. And that's what Judah did here. It ain't the fact that he's a sinner. It's the fact that he's acknowledging that I'm a sinner. And that's key. And that's the part that a lot of people don't want to do. They don't want to acknowledge that I'm a good person. I didn't say you were a good person, but are you perfect? Because you want to deal with God. You want to be with God in eternity. You're going to have to be perfect.
Amen.
So that's why I spend a little time on verse 26 here, because I think often, a lot of times we miss that.
Yes.
About our communion with God. It's that you got to acknowledge. And so Judah acknowledged them and said, she have been more righteous than I, because I gave her not to Shelah, my son. I didn't allow her to marry my son Shelah. All right. And he knew her again no more. So technically, Tamar then became listed as Judah's wife. But he knew her what? No more. All right. So the cultural game that they played of making the brother go and raise seed to the dead brother got altered because there was a relative. It wasn't a near relative, but instead of it being the brother, it was the what? The father. All right. It seems a little weird, and we're going to see that later on. The law of Moses is going to address that directly. All right. But in this cultural vein here, so now what is Judah going to do? All right. She's more righteous than I. All right, and this is what. So what? He lets her what? He lets her live. His first edict was what? To burn her. But know what? She's more righteous than I am. So I'm going to let her live. All right. And it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. Now look at that. So the Lord, in the midst of this cultural statutes that they have, this like the rules of the game of their day, the Lord allowed her to have what? Twins. 2 sons. You see that? So she has twins in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed, and one put forth out of his hand. So as they're about being born, a hand pops out. And the midwife took and bound the hand, put a scarlet on the hand, so that they would know, okay, this one is the first one that came out. This is the firstborn, right? All right. Saying this is this came out first. Verse 29. And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that behold, his brother came out. And she said, how hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. Therefore his name was called Pharez. All right. And so, and it says, and after came out the brother that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zara. All right. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that the one that broke forth, Perez, that's going to be the line that Jesus comes through. It's going to come through that particular twin. All right. So we see all of this here as we go through these stories. And even when we go back and look at the genealogy that is given by Matthew and the genealogy that is given by Luke, that these women that we're going to see, Tamar is mentioned, and usually they don't mention any women in the genealogy. They would mention only the men.
Right.
But Tamar is mentioned. So is Bathsheba, and so is Rahab. All right. But then you say, well, okay, what's interesting about these 3 women? Well, we just heard about Tamar. Bathsheba, we know about that because that's the woman that David stole from another man. And Rahab was the harlot in who? Where? In Jericho. And then she ends up marrying the grandfather of Boaz, or the father of Boaz, becomes David's grandmother. So you find it interesting that these individuals, these women that have somehow or another ill what's what I'm looking for? Reputation, but yet or trying to survive in the midst of the culture that they were in. You see what I'm saying? And so to me, it's amazing how the Lord balances that. Because see, I can't balance that. I can't do it. I can't say, well, what's wrong or what's right, and be consistent and be perfect and righteous and just all the way through. Because see, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, Judah, you out, dude, you done. But no, but God sees Judah as an individual that I'm gonna bring my son through. Whereas if you would have asked me, he'd have been disqualified. Jesus would have been coming through the line of Nathaniel or somebody else. It wouldn't have been through this dude. But see, that's why God is who He is.
Amen. And
we don't see all the all the whys and the how comes that people have to deal with, and what's going on. So Judah was, so why did he marry the Canaanite woman? Well, it don't give us a lot of detail. But then the sons were born, and one is evil, and the other one does evil, and they're both dead. And then the other son, I got this shadow over me because I'm supposed to give it to this woman, but I don't want, so all this stuff that you dealing with, that we deal with, that we got to deal with our everyday stuff. I got, issue over here. How do I handle this? And we handle it the best way we can, knowing that I'm probably not going to do it perfect. I'm probably going to have a little bit of this could have been done better, or this could have been done where it would have been easier, or this could have been done where more people would have been more set. But we ain't gonna always make it always the way that it's like perfect. But God looks at your actions, your attitudes, looking at Judah, the fact that he acknowledged, and you say, okay, so he got caught. No, he got caught, but he also acknowledged and made the statement, she was more righteous than what? Than I. Those things that we do, I think, are important to the Lord, because once again, and I'll close with this, the Lord is not looking for you for you to prove to him how good you are. A lot of times, that's the motive that a lot of people come into religion with. I want to show God how good I am. I want God to see how good a person I am.
But there's none righteous.
There is none righteous. And he that says I have no sin is a what?
A liar.
A liar. So what are we then trying to do? Want to do like what David said, oh, that I might know him. Jesus said, if God be in you and you be in him, you can ask what you will. So you want to entangle yourself in the things of the Lord. I want to be wrapped and tied up and tangled up in the Word, in His Spirit,
Amen.
And have His, all that, knowing that I can't get it right, but I can just be with Him. I want to understand who He is.
Amen.
I want to love and know the Lord for the Lord.
Amen.
Not try to get anything out of it. See, a lot of people get into, I want to study the Bible so I can do this and I can make money and I can talk and go around and become wonderful. And people have done it. And they're going to continue to do it.
Amen.
But that ain't the whole purpose of it. Do you want to know God?
Amen.
You just want to be with Him. You want to, you just love Him. And Him being, I want to just know my Creator.
Oh, that I may know.
Oh, that I may know Him. This is what David wanted to know.
Amen.
And so those are the issues that I think we struggle with. Sometimes we don't acknowledge. Most of the time in religious circles, folks are trying to measure up how good I am, and putting down people that are what that don't measure up to you. Well, look at how good I do this correct. I do this correct. I do this correct. All right. And Jesus told the story about that man, the two people that went to go pray. Right. Mm-hmm. He said one went to go pray. Lord, I thank you. I'm not like this publican over here. I give tithes and I do this. He's listing all the stuff he does. And then the poor publican over there, he goes, well, God, be merciful to me, a what? A sinner. Jesus said he rose up more righteous than this other guy. Because the other guy prayed to himself about how wonderful he was. So we got to be careful with that.
Amen.
Now, at the same time, do we want to do the best we can?
Yes.
Of course. But don't walk in with no, I did the best I can trophy, trying to impress God. So you do the best we can, and we try to help. We try to be all that we can that will assist society. But that ain't the badge of honor that we wear.
Amen.
The badge of honor that we wear is the righteousness of Christ. All right. Any other comments or questions? So we're gonna stop there.